stream, then I'll start the meeting.
Right, yes, I can confirm that we are live streaming now.
Lovely, thank you very much, Lucy. Hello and welcome everyone, members of the public that might be watching the live stream, to the Southampton Development Management Committee for the 31st of March 2021. Yeah. God, just lost 20 years.
Sorry, 20 years there, Chairman.
Yeah.
How much would
Okay.
you change?
Right. Just before we start, I'll turn my phone off. Just to say that I'm just going to run through a bit of housekeeping. Just to remind that we're being live streamed, so just be aware of that, everyone. If members of the committee lose connection during one of the items being debated, a planning application, then we will adjourn the meeting. I'm afraid that's not true if members of the public drop out. For each application, we've got a set process where it be introduced by the planning officer, followed by speakers. We don't have any speakers as it happens today, followed by the local ward member. Following each of those presentations, members of the committee may ask for questions or clarification. When that's done, we will then start the debate. It will be over to the committee. We will have the debate on the particular application, and then that will be decided or approved as per approved as per the committee decides. Just to remind you that when you're not speaking, please mute. And also with the camera, although it seems to be okay at the moment, unless you're actually speaking, try not to use the camera either. There doesn't seem to be a problem at the moment, but it may cause some problems with the broadband width, something like that, I've been told. Yeah, so I think that's about it. What we're going to do now is I'm going to ask Miss Young if she just does a roll call to check that we're all present and correct and that we're quorate, and then we will move on to the agenda itself. So, Miss Young, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Abbott.
Present.
Councillor Brazil.
Present.
Councillor Brown.
Present.
Councillor Foss.
Present.
Councillor Hallway.
Present.
Councillor Kemp.
Present.
Councillor Long.
Present.
Councillor Pannell.
I'm here.
Councillor Pringle.
Here.
Councillor Rowe.
Present.
Councillor Taylor.
Present.
And Chair, just to let you know that Councillor Hodgson is having connection problems and we are trying to get her connected now. And you're on mute.
Thank you. Okay. In which case, what I suggest, let me go through the agenda until we get to item 6, and then I might move on to item 7 and 8. So if she's still not here by then. So item 1, minutes of the previous meeting. Are you happy that I can sign those as a true record of the meeting from the 3rd of March?
Yeah.
So moved.
Thank you. Urgent business. I haven't got any urgent business to bring forward. Item 3, division of agenda. I'm not aware that there's any confidential information that we'll need to discuss. Item 4, declarations of interest, members. Any declarations of interest on any of the items? No, can't see any. Item 5, public participation. I'm not aware that we've actually got any speakers for this, so we'll leave that. So item 5 is not relevant. Item 6, planning applications. Can't see that Jackie's here, so in which case, and sorry, Cheryl, hi there. I think you're standing in for Pat.
I am, yes.
And sorry to throw this onto you, but we're going to go straight to the planning appeals update. So item 7, if we may. So I don't know if you've had a chance to look at them or if any members have any questions on them.
I have gone through them. Do you want me to do a quick run through of everyone, or do we just want
No,
to
just where you think there's, yeah, I mean, obviously only the ones that have come through, and you know, some are more interesting than others, but yeah, so yeah, quick run through, that'd be great.
Okay, so if I share my screen, so hopefully you can see the appeals list. So just I'll go through very quickly. So the stables, Leadstone, that one was dismissed. It's quite a succinct appeal decision, quite a good clear analysis of how the policy should be applied, starting spatially with SPT1, TTV1 and 2, and then working down to the sort of specific TTV26 and DEV15. So inspector found this was not a sustainable location. It was isolated. Any guest for the holiday unit would be totally reliant on the motor car. So that one was dismissed on that basis.
Chairman?
Yeah, Richard.
Yeah, that's in my ward. That's a good result at the end of the day. It's been a long time coming. It's every which way they've tried to get that for main accommodation to start off with. It's been a long saga, that one. It's a very pleasing result.
Good, excellent.
Yep. Okay, so moving on to the next one, Town Mills at Staverton. We were quite disappointed with this decision. It was based on the harm to the non-designated heritage asset, which was the former mill building. The inspector simply didn't agree that it would be that harmful, noted that the building had had quite a lot of alterations before, so its sort of historic impact was already diminished. So moving on, that's another appeal lodged. The next one, this appeal was dismissed. Three Edge Close, so I suspect members will remember that one. Fairly recent extension to householder application. Officers recommended approval, members disagreed and dismissed it. The inspector noted that the extension would have been subservient to the dwelling, but it would compromise the spacious feel of the little cul-de-sac development, so dismissed it on that basis. The appellant did submit a award for costs as well. And when you read the decision, I thought we were going to get costs awarded against us, because the inspector noted that neighbourhood plan policy TP 1.1 was used in the refusal reason. That relates solely to neighbour amenity, but the refusal was based on the design. But the inspector went on to say that the appellant was able to address that with just a few lines in their statement, so it didn't. Whilst it was unreasonable to include that, the appellant didn't incur any wasted expense, so we didn't get costs awarded against us on that one. So the next one is a TPO that's been lodged, and then another appeal that's been lodged. And the last one, land adjacent to the old mill. So this was the demolition of it's described as a barn, but it's sort of an industrial building, quite a substantial size, replacement with 4 dwellings. Officers recommended approval. Committee refused it on several reasons: inadequate parking and turning, the scale and massing would have resulted in an unneighbourly development. It was felt the design was inappropriate and the use of brick and zinc was an inappropriate material in the conservation area and next to listed building. Going through the inspector's decision, it seems to have hinged largely on the current building, was substantial in size. Obviously, it was rather unattractive. It was causing harm in itself. Inspector considered the form of the dwellings was acceptable, would improve the contribution to the historic environment. Didn't feel the materials were harmful either. In terms of neighbour impact, the inspector noted it would be an improvement compared to the neighbour impact that the existing building has. imposed a few conditions, sort of obscure glazing, which mitigated any overlooking to neighbours. And in terms of the inadequate size of the garages, again, the inspector put on a condition to make sure they complied with standards. So on that basis, that one was allowed. Any questions on any of those?
Members, anything to add? No? In which case, that's great.
There we are, please. I've only just joined the meeting because I've had internet problems.
Yeah, no, hi, Jackie. We've just done the appeals.
Okay.
So we haven't moved on to your application yet. We wanted to wait until you were there. So
Okay.
we will. I just asked. Let me know when she's in. But obviously you're there now. So that's good. So we can go back. Thank you for that, Ms. Stansbury. That's excellent. So we'll go back to item agenda 6, which is item agenda 6A, which is application number 4139/20/VAR. Tom, you're still on camera. Don't know if you mean to be.
Sorry, no.
No, that's all right. And I will hand over to Ms. Horahan, who will introduce this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. Right, this is my first virtual committee, so I just want to check that everyone can see the presentation that's up on the screen.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. So I will start. Okay, so the site is within Dartington Parish. It's the last dwelling as you leave Totnes, travelling along Barracks Hill, heading towards Dartington. So there's a neighbouring property to the south east, bordered by Barracks Hill along the southwest, and then open fields to the northern side, and then eventually travelling north east you get to Kevix. So just an aerial view there, just so you can get an idea of the site surroundings. So the ground level slopes away from the road down towards the back garden. So the property appears as a bungalow from the road. So there's the view looking back towards Totnes down Barracks Hill. But from the rear, it's more of a split level property. So it's got various 20th century add-ons, the flat roof extension, pitch roof extension to the rear. So it's got a large back garden, as you can see, sloping away from the road level, as I mentioned. And then to the rear, it's quite substantial tree and hedge screening to both sides. So you've got, that's the boundary hedge towards the neighbouring property, and then that's the boundary hedging towards the field next door. And then you can see to the rear, there's quite a lot of tall trees and hedges, and it's very, very thick vegetation. So in December last year, planning permission was, oh sorry, there's just an extra one there, looking over the hedges out towards Ashburton Road to the north. So in December last year, planning permission was granted for substantial works to the dwelling, which replaced all of the old sort of tired extensions to the rear with one single extension. The original dwelling was going to undergo some renovation as well to kind of create one cohesive dwelling of a singular design, matching materials. So no representations were submitted for the original application. Although Dartington Parish Council did submit a late objection, this was after the decision had been issued. So the current application seeks to vary one of the conditions of the planning permission. It had been proposed to clad the lower ground floor in stone. So condition 7 of the permission stated that stone should be of a colour and texture occurring locally, which is quite a common condition that we add. So the extent of the proposed stone you can see with the red arrows that I've put here. So it would just be to the lower ground floor. So we've got the northeast elevation and the northwest elevation. So the proposed variation would replace the stone just to this lower level with brick. The brick would be neutral tones, so not actually dissimilar to stone. Due to them being handmade bricks, there would be variation in the exact shading and tone of each brick. So the agent has submitted these photos as kind of examples of the type of brick, just to give you an idea of the sort of colour and the variation in the shading of the brick. So no letters of representation have been received. The Parish Council have objected, and this objection is quite detailed, so it's contained within the officer report. A key concern seems to be the colour of the proposed brick. So it's recommended that a condition be added to any approval, which would require the details of the brick to be submitted to approval to the council prior to its installation, so that we can just ensure that the colours are appropriate for the site. So the changes, as I've said, would be to the 2 rear elevations, so that you can see here on the screen, and the lower ground floor levels only. So given the substantial boundary screening that we've seen in earlier photos and the position of the site, so I've just got some longer views back towards the site from Barracks Hill. As you can see the northwest elevation. You can see the kind of the top of the roof and the ground floor. But the lower ground floor area really can't be seen from outside of the site. It should also be noted that the ground floor has a slightly larger footprint than the lower ground floor, so the brick would actually be recessed slightly underneath the ground floor, which would further reduce any impact. So to summarise, the only change that we're considering today is the whether or not the change from stone to brick is acceptable. There's no other change to the scheme as approved, and for the reasons outlined here today and in the officer report, the recommendation is for conditional approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harahane. Members, any questions?
Can I just ask a question, Charlotte, please? How much higher up is the roof line going to be?
There's no change to the approved scheme, but if you mean in relation to the existing dwelling, the ridge level would actually be the same.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Councillor Long.
Charlotte, could I have a point of clarification, please? You showed the photograph saying it was the brick, but on the website, the photographs and photo montages are saying photos of stone cladding. So I just wanted to know whether I was looking at the actual brick or the proposed previous stone cladding.
So the example photos that I shown here are examples of the brick that's proposed to be used.
Right, okay, that they are on the website they're showing as photo of stone cladding. That's what it stated, so I was a little bit confused there. Okay.
Yeah, no, fair, yeah, that is confusing, fair enough, but
okay.
This is the
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Long. Councillor Pannell.
Thank you. I think the application talks about green brick. Is that the colour that's being proposed, that precise colour that we can see on the screen now, which is looks more like a browny grey?
Yeah, I did ask the agent about this because I know this has been a point of confusion, understandably. They've said that it's just the kind of the industry name for the brick. I think they've referred to it as a black green, but it won't be green. It will be shades like this.
That's a good representation of the colours suggested. Okay, thank you.
So they've said, yeah, and obviously with the condition that I've recommended, we can ensure that it is this type of colour rather than a green brick before it's installed.
Right, thank you.
Councillor Foss.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Charlotte, can you confirm that the actual brick that we're talking about can't technically be seen by the general public to be down at the site? It won't be seen by people walking by or anything like that?
Yeah, so I've had a good wander around the site, obviously because of the parish concerns about the visibility. As you can see, so from the photos again, I took photos going sort of back along Barracks Hill, and this is the extent that you can see of the dwelling, and the brick or the stone would be about 50. I think the agent said. I can't remember, they gave me the details, but yes, you won't be able to see it. I did also wander up Clay Lane, which if you look at the map is kind of the first road that you meet going to the northwest, and I couldn't see the dwelling from there, so I'm fairly confident that you won't be able to see this from any public views.
So no public will be able to see what we're talking about?
No.
Right, thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Foss. Any more
Can I-
questions?
Question, please.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Councillor
Awkward
Hodgson. Yeah,
the phone.
Councillor Hodgson.
No,
that's
I
fine.
just wanted to ask, just in terms of visibility into the wider environment, how this kind of links up with the allocated site that's around Kevix, because my understanding is it actually backs onto that. Not directly, but across the field, it would actually back onto the allocated site, so that could compromise the 180 house allocation for the Kevix site under the JLP. Does that have any impact?
I think given the extent of the screening to the rear elevation, from that lower ground floor level, when I was on site, I couldn't actually see out to the back, out beyond the rear boundary due to the extent of that vegetation. So I don't think it would be a concern.
Thank you. And any more questions, members? In which case, there are no speakers, so I will move to Councillor Hodgson as the local ward member, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll keep this short because I mean it is only a condition that we're looking at, but it has been highly controversial at the at Dartington Parish Council, and I think the issue. I mean, I think it's interesting that members have actually spotted it too. That it talks about a black-green brick as opposed to a stone cladding, and the stone was, you know, that's acceptable in the situation, and it seems that the reason it's being given to actually change it is for economic reasons. But equally, I think part of the issue was that as soon as the application was granted permission, which was just before Christmas, this condition request came in. So, you know, it kind of in some ways feels a little bit like planning by stealth, you know, that you get one thing and then you try and change something that you think might have been controversial in the first round. So you kind of get one permission and then build on it. But that's just a view. That's not necessarily a sort of a direct comment on this. But, you know, there is a concern that if we approve something that has in its nature dark green brick cladding in the name, then how can we sort of refuse it if something then is offered which is dark green, and you know the planning officer could be compromised. One thing that was suggested during the process of this by the planning officer at one of the mitigation conversations was that there's a drawing that's been provided. I think it's a photograph. I'm really sorry because I'm working blind here. It's horrible working blind at the end of a phone. But one of the drawings does show a cladding that looks very much like, it's a brick shape, but it actually looks just like stone cladding. It's kind of those quite soft shades of grey, deeper grey, light grey and white. I think if it could be tied to that submitted drawing or photograph, whatever you call it, I think that would be acceptable because I think that could be tied down. But I think that has to be really keenly tied down and not just left to a description of dark green brick, because I think we could end up with something that could be quite harsh. And while I accept that it's not very visible, there's always the potential because somebody can always take down a hedge and then suddenly what's there can be exposed because we don't put in the conditions that you have to leave the hedge intact. So that's my view. And I actually, to be honest, I think we should refuse this, because I think what's already agreed with just ordinary stone cladding is the best option anyway. I don't see any good reason to change this.
Okay, thank you. Can I just check there with Ms. Harahane that it is indeed that we do have a condition that we have to see the materials before they're actually used?
Yes, so condition 7 on the officer report states that the applicants will need to supply at least photos of the proposed brick before it's installed so that we can be very sure about the colour and the tones of it.
I understood that it could actually be provided as a panel that could actually be put in.
We can do, and we do that sometimes. I think the thought was that because of COVID and the fact that offices aren't actually open for them to bring panels in that like they normally would, that photos could suffice, but that can be discussed.
Well, we're coming out of COVID now, aren't we? And I
okay. I don't want to be fair, Councillor Hodgson, I don't want to go into the ins and outs of.
Okay, no, all I was going to say was, given the situation and the strength of feeling from the parish council, I would just like to actually be involved in that confirmation of what material was offered if it did go through, and that was a condition.
Yeah, I'm sure we can. I'm sure we can add that to condition 7, development shall be carried out only in accordance with the approved and including consultation with the local ward member, if that's possible.
Yeah.
I think we're okay. Okay, you okay with that, Charlotte and Stansbury? Yeah.
Can I quickly come in? That
Okay.
We shouldn't really be putting that kind of wording in a condition, because it makes that condition quite vague and imprecise. I don't know if Becky wanted to come in and say anything there as well.
I don't know. I'm just trying to really tie this down. I mean, I think what was approved in the first instance with the stone appearance is what we should be kind of aspiring to be as close to. Because as I say, if they took the hedge down, you could end up with a very stark building in the landscape. And there's a drawing there, or I can't remember if it's a drawing or a photograph, because I can't get in properly to anything, which had looked very much like cladding. And if that was, the stone cladding, and if that was the acceptable one, but I think when we had that conversation, you did suggest a panel. Certainly a panel has been produced on a wall in Ashburton Road, which for similar reasons. And I think that seems to be a fair way to go, because then it's actually agreed as to what's going to be matched to and clearly understood.
Councillor Hodgson, I might have slightly more sympathy with you if you hadn't brought this to committee, however, because you seem to be saying that if you can get this, then you'd bring it, then you'll be okay with it. But you brought it to committee because you're against it. So I don't think you can't run with the hare and hunt with the hounds, I'm afraid. You can be one way or the other on this.
Being at the far end, just sitting on the phone here, I'm trying to remember everything. It's been really frustrating this morning trying to get in through no fault of my own. But what I'm trying to say is that actually I would rather this was refused, because I think what was there was good enough. But a second best, if it has to be, would really tie it down to looking as close to stone cladding as we can. That's what I'm trying to make clear.
Yeah, no, I think that's what members were looking at as well. Anyway, let me move on to Councillor Long. You wanted to ask a question.
Chairman, it was a lot of it is developed on from this, and I was wondering whether, just for clarity, condition 7 could have provision of a panel of the brickwork, because that's far easier to sort of view and see the colouring of it rather than just details of proposed brickwork. I think and then it covers it.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Long. I think that's a good suggestion. Ms. Harrahane, are you okay with that? If we just say details, including a panel, would be good.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah.
And Councillor Hodgson, are you happy with that? We're not going to condition that you need to be consulted, but they will see a panel, and I would hope very much that officers would allow Councillor Hodgson to see that, please.
Okay, but I'd like somewhere in there that the drawing that was referred to when we had the mitigation conversation is actually named, because I remember that planning officer, she proposed that at the time, and there was one that looked very much like stone cladding, albeit in brick form.
Yeah, Councillor Hodgson, actually, we are looking at that very picture that you're talking about. I know you can't see it on the phone, but that exact picture, and I think that as far as members are concerned, if we're going to vote to approve this, we would be expecting we would be expecting it to look as the stone as per picture. Anyway, Councillor Pannell.
Thank you. So just opening up. Yeah, I don't find those pictures of that brick unattractive, and I think it sits quite well with what is a modern extension. If we are able to impose those conditions, I would be happy with that, so I move approval.
Thank you. Councillor Holway.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I think this this brick mixture is perfectly acceptable. The drawings we saw earlier were, well, I suppose CAD produced, so you can see the proposed texture very easily. But because there's an overhang from the upper ground floor, you're not going to actually notice it. You're not going to notice the texture hardly at all, and so from that point of view, I really think that the mixture proposed is perfectly acceptable, and I would like to second approval, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holloway. Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Chairman. I was going to say exactly the same as Councillor Holloway. I need not add any more. I will be supporting the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Councillor Kemp.
Hi, yeah, I totally concur as well that it's going to sit in really nicely and weather well, and it's, you know, it's a good colour, so I'll support it too.
Thank you. In which case, I can't see any more members wishing to speak or in the debate. We've had a proposal for approval and seconded as per the officer recommendation. Just to tweak condition 7, that the details should be submitted in the form of a panel. If we could just, so there's a slight amendment to condition 7. If we're okay with that. So given that, I think we can move to the vote. Ms Young, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. If you can confirm you have heard the debate and let me know how you are voting, please. Councillor Abbott.
Sorry, can I just come back in? I'm really sorry. Can I just ask that we did a minute ago say for item 7 we would actually refer to a drawing number.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's necessary. I mean, we know what we want because we've seen the drawing, and when it's submitted on the panel, we will.
Having any nonsense with her? I can't believe that. Oopsie.
Yeah. What we'll do, and I've just been reminded as well, actually, that that if you go to condition 2, it does specifically talk about the drawings, and that is a drawing. The ones that we've been sent in the plans are part of that planning application, so they are covered in that sense. So let's. I will just move to the vote.
Thank you,
Ms Young.
Thank you, Chair. So again, please, if you can confirm you have heard the debate and how you are voting with regards to approval for this application. Councillor Abbott.
I've heard the debate and I am voting for approval of this application.
Thank you. Councillor Brazil.
Yeah, I've heard the vote and I'm voting for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
I've heard the debate and I'm voting for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Foss.
I've heard the debate and I'm voting for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Hodgson.
I've heard the debate and I'm voting for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Holloway.
I've heard the debate and I'm voting for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Kemp.
I've heard the debate and I'm voting for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Long.
I've heard the debate and I'm voting for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Pannell.
I've heard the debate and I'm voting for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Pringle.
I've heard the debate and I'm voting for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe.
I've heard the debate and I'm voting for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
I've heard the debate and I'm voting for approval.
Thank you. Chair, that is carried unanimously.
Thank you very much, members. That application is approved. Right, we'll move on to item agenda 7, which was the appeals. I do that just merely because one of the appeals was in Councillor Hodgson's ward. I don't know if you wanted to comment on that, Councillor Hodgson.
Well, it was obviously upheld. You're talking about the one at Town Mills in Staverton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fine.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. Now, I just wondered if you wanted to add anything. No.
No.
In which case, we will move on to item agenda 8, which is major developments. Ms Stansbury, over to you again.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'm just bringing up the list. I've got nothing particular to add, so it's more whether members have got any questions about any on the list. No.
Sorry, yeah, Councillor Pannell.
Yeah, sorry, I can't. I'm having trouble with my screen. I haven't looked at the list in the past. Can you remind? the Totnes site, the dairy site, was that not a major development site, was it? Or was it?
The dairy site in Totnes isn't an application.
No, no.
We don't have
Okay,
a planning application.
That was approved. It was approved.
right, but it's not happening. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
it's not
thank
happening
you.
because they don't own it anymore. Well, they never did. Actually.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, members, any other questions on those major applications? I mean, I hope you've all read it. I mean, my view is that if you have got issues, it's best probably to raise it with individual officers rather than, unless you've got a general point to make about them. It's more for information. Right. I think that's it. Thank you, Ms. Stansbury. That's very good. Members, congratulations. That's fantastic. We've finished within just over half an hour. So thank you all very much.
Chairman,
yeah.
with your indulgence, once the formal meeting is finished and we're not streaming, could I have a word with our officers, please, to pick their brains about something completely different?
You can cancel the whole way, but there's no need to ask my permission. You can do that anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, unless it's a general question that you think everyone might be interested in, I mean, just you crack on with what you need to do. But other than that, members, thank you all very much, and I will now formally close the meeting. And Lucy, if you could end the streaming, that would be great. Thank you very much. Good to see you all.
Thank you.